Welcome to the Vernon Hills Update. The update offers information about a variety of village services. You'll meet a few of your neighbors, and you'll find out about upcoming events. On today's show, we'll sit down with longtime Finance Director Larry Nakrin as he prepares to retire after more than 3 decades with the village. We'll check in with the Vernon Hills Police Department for some suggestions for keeping you and your purchases safe and secure this holiday shopping season. We'll learn what the village and our Public Works Department is doing to add some holiday sparkle around town. We'll review some important holiday safety tips with Fireman Tony Rotke of the Countryside Fire Protection District. And we'll stop over at the newly remodeled Vernon Hills Police Station, which was formally dedicated on November 14th. And we'll revisit some of the sights and sounds of the village tree and menorah lighting, which took place on November 28th at the Vernon Hills Golf Course. Thank you for tuning into the Vernon Hills Update.
Well, we are with a very good neighbor to know. We're with Larry Nakrin, who's been a good neighbor for 30-some years. He's our soon-to-be retired Director of Finance for the Village of Vernon Hills. And we just want to come over and say thank you and say goodbye and actually learn a little bit more about you if somebody hasn't met you before. But Larry, thanks for taking the time. And boy, the clock is ticking. When is your retirement?
It's January 7th of 2016.
You've been looking forward to that for a little while. I know the village has been preparing, and you have somebody in place that's coming, that you've been, working with.
Right. We have an excellent person in Nikki Larson, who's been with the finance department as our assistant finance director for 1.5 years. And prior to that, she was the finance director in Highland Park, and she ran the accounting operation in Palatine, so she comes in with a wealth of skills and knowledge, and so I think we've been working on the transition. It's been a good one.
Well, you have, you're big shoes to fill here because you have been here for a long time. Before we start about, how you got here, can you tell people, like the 3-sentence version of, excuse me, what a director of finance does? Because you're the money guy.
Right. We're basically managing the finances of the village, and we do that with a number of tools, including budget and debt and long-term financial planning and investing and basically internal controls.
Yeah, so it's all the stuff that's behind the scenes, and you've been a quiet guy behind the scenes, so I think it's going to be hard to get you to toot your horn too much, but you've been involved in a lot of stuff here in the village as we've gone forward for these 30-some years. So let's back up. How did you get to Vernon Hills? Were you from around here? Did you go to school around here?
Actually went to school in Chicago, University of Chicago, but I worked in the governor's office as a budget analyst, and then I worked for Springfield as assistant controller. And when this opportunity came along, I was really excited. It was a chance to work in a diverse and a growing community with a lot of interesting challenges, and I'm really glad I came.
Well, let's talk about that. So what year was that you drove into town, and what did the town look like then? Because, this town has had rapid growth in all sectors. So, what year did you come, and what was that like here?
Well, it was 1984 that I came, and at the time we were a community of about 10,000 people. We had, in terms of retail at that point, we were Hawthorne Mall and Hawthorne Commons and Vernon Plaza. That was most of our retail. In terms of residential, we were the original section, Deer Path and New Century Town. And geographically, we were a lot smaller than we are now.
Even on corporate, were the corporate woods all those corporate headquarters and things there at the time, or was that still to come?
That was still to come, and I credit there were some really exciting years. Phil Ellis, Barbara Williams were mayors during those early years, and Larry Lashin was just an amazing village manager. And one of the first things he did that was really important to establishing the credibility of Vernon Hills as a place for developers to come was to bring in corporate woods. And I think bringing in corporate woods kind of sent a signal to a lot of developers that Vernon Hills was sophisticated enough to handle large developments.
Well, and think about that. There are other communities around us. They have had huge population, maybe booms in the residential side, or booms on one side or the other, and the infrastructure can't handle it. You know, the schools, the schools haven't been taken care of and prepared for all this, or all these things happen. But Vernon Hills, thanks in large part to you behind the scenes, has always prepared and taken care of all the sectors at once. Very well planned.
Absolutely. One of the most exciting periods, I think, was the Cuneo annexation. And I think about then we had a couple of goals. One was to diversify the housing stock, of course, but another goal was to make sure that it wasn't a financial burden on the existing residents. And so, we carefully laid out a balance that would be both residential and commercial, so we'd get the sales tax revenues from it. And ironically, here we are 25 years later. I mean, the annexation actually took place in 1988. 25 years later, and we're at the point where the roads that were built by the developer are coming of age, that they're going to need major rehabilitation. And that sales tax revenue is being generated and is to be generated in Greg's Landing is very important to us.
So the plan is working. You planned for that, and you can already see it happening. Well, it's hard to imagine that the roads are getting old there, because I remember when you say annexing the Cuneo property, people, if they've just come here, they don't realize there wasn't Amliet Museum Gardens. There wasn't a housing development that went all the way across over to Butterfield. That was just, it was trees, and it was brush, and we didn't even know really that Lake Charles was in there. A lot of people who are from around here, but it was kind of like an unknown area.
Right. I remember early on finding out that we were a landlord, because one of the caretakers for the Cuneo property had a place on what became our golf course, White Deer Run. So I mean, those were some of the things that at least I certainly didn't know about the Cuneo property.
Well, think about it. When you first came here, and even when I first came here, that was a family home. There were people living there. That was their home, and the people lived on the grounds around it. It wasn't like it is today. So those are the kind of the growth things you had to oversee, and the planning forward and the thinking ahead. And you've always done that behind the scenes, but I know you were there for a lot of things. Can you remember some of those other things that kind of stuck out as milestones or tricky things, or things that you're proud of?
Well, I think one of the, right along the lines of Cuneo was the golf course, which is now White Deer Run. And I'm very proud of the fact that we entertained a number of proposals, and in the end we settled on a builder or developer of the golf course who basically put no risk on the residents of Vernon Hills. So I'm very proud of the decisions, that our board and our mayors and staff have made in that regard. And I was very, very, proud of my contribution to that process. Another thing that was, we used debt for the first time. And, there was a lot of value to debt, particularly because if we had a good bond rating, we could borrow at a lot lower interest rate than we could, than the interest rate which we could invest our funds. And I remember we first borrowed in 1990, and we were told at the time that we were likely going to be a A1 rated community. So Mayor Williams, Larry Lashin, and I went to New York, and we spoke to Moody's and Standard & Poor's, and they gave us a AA rating, which was unexpected, but we were able to convince them that we were very fiscally responsible. And ultimately, both those rating agencies have upped us to AAA, their highest rating. And interestingly, Moody's was able to do that after the economic crash, but before we became home rule. So I'm really pleased with that. Another challenge, I think, was the fund balance. And, the fund balance, it's helped us with debt, but it's also helped us to give us flexibility. And just, one indication of how valuable the fund balance is, the time I've been here, we've been able to generate in our general fund about $21 million of income from investments. And that's about a year's worth of spending from the general fund. So think about it. If we had spent down our fund balance, we would not have that revenue, and we'd basically be playing catch up. So I think that was really, an accomplishment I'm really pleased with.
Well, and speaking of the revenues and what the village works off of, has all the time you've been here, have we been where the village has not taken a property tax? The other entities around town take a property tax, but we have not, at least in the time I remember. Is that something that's always been the case here in Vernon Hills?
Yes, that is. Certainly since I've been here, I knew that was mission one, to make sure we do not have a property tax. And we've worked hard at that. We've worked hard at being financially responsible.
Well, and I know last month John Kalmar explained, or in some previous shows, John Kalmar explained that sometimes it's harder to be fiscally responsible and solid just because what's going on in the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois, their actions in the gridlock has been unusual, and I would say you'd have to say it's unusual. Have you ever experienced a time quite like this in your long finance history?
No, never seen anything like this. I don't think many states have seen anything like this, where the budget process is so broken down. And it's, it's hard to plan for, and we have the added handicap that we've had to deal with for many years, that for throughout our history, that we do not levy a property tax. A property tax provides you with a certain level of certainty. And we're more sales tax dependent, so we've had to basically be more proactive and think more long term and think about what could go wrong. And there's certainly a lot that can go wrong. This is a new one, but it's certainly within the realm of the type of things we've been preparing for.
And when you were working for the governor's office, what governor was that? I mean, how far back because you've been a political, watcher all the way through.
Yeah, that goes back to James Thompson. So
you've seen a lot, and this is still kind of a surprise.
Right. I've seen his building be built, and now I may see it be sold. I don't know.
Well, and I know you said before we started, you said it's probably not good form for me to start railing on Illinois too much, so we'll leave it at that. It's unusual. We'll let you go. Well, so you've gotten us in shape financially. Any of those other things that stick out that you'd like to bring up?
Well, I think another area was basically, and goes along with our financial planning, was basically preparing for the downturns. And in 2004, I remember we were very proactive in putting in a hiring freeze when we saw the numbers going bad, and I think that helped us through that period. And then, 2008, 2009, we had a really tough period, and we put in a early retirement incentive that went into effect about 5.5 years ago. We had 9 people take advantage of it, of which 8 people were not replaced. And, that certainly made things a lot tougher for everyone. But I'm pleased with the fact that that early retirement incentive over this 5.5-year period has saved us about $4.5 million in salary and benefits. So, that really helped keep us where we are. And I think another area I'm really proud of is that Vernon Hills is a pioneer in conservative assumptions for funding the police pension fund, and we try and be conservative about the rate of return assumption for the pension fund. We try and be conservative about the age that people are going to retire, and if you're more optimistic, you can nominally improve your funding level of your pension fund, but really what you're doing is you're pushing costs into the future. And I'm very proud of the fact that we've been very realistic and that we've been absorbing the costs. And I said I wasn't going to talk about the state of Illinois, but there's an example of years and years and years of not being realistic in what needed to be done for the pension fund. And I'm glad to say that Vernon Hills is the exception. And I know Standard & Poor's noted that as a strength when they were rating us. And, for a lot of places in Illinois, I don't think their pension funding is viewed as a strength.
I was going to say, you have always been a careful, conservative, steady voice for everything. It doesn't mean you're like pessimistic, but you're a realist, and that's been important. And I think that's going to remain to be the call here through this office, even as you leave.
Right. I think that's a commitment of Nikki's as well, and Roger Byrne, who's I can't. Well, I know we'll get into things, but I can't express enough appreciation for him, who's been my mayor since 1993, and but the board and the staff, the managers all along, Larry Lesh and Mike Allison, now John Calmer, I think have all operated in a manner that they're trying to be very conservative.
Well, we have to be when you're in the background, because like I said, you're a quiet force, but you're in on everything, and you're thinking about everything, and you're planning for all those. You've always planned for what could happen, A, B, C, D, E, and that's been so key to having this steady growth that didn't overwhelm one part or the other of the community. Just planning for all things. That's been huge for us, and we appreciate that.
I think my role in this is to lay out the facts, lay out the possibilities, and and hopefully just help people to just think through an issue better than they might have. And I think I'm part of a process. It's been a process that great mayors. I also have to acknowledge Barbara Williams, who as I said, was great in our visits to Bowie's and Standard & Poor's, but we've had great mayors, great boards, great department heads, great employees who really take a long-term point of view. But I think we've just had a good process of having, thinking through options, and in the long run, coming to what I consider the best options. And I think we're where we are because we've gone through, that kind of really thoughtful process.
It's a good team here over at Village Hall, and you've trained them well in how to follow that process, and that process can live on after you go off and have some fun. And I know you've been going off a little bit because you told me I have to take little mini vacations because you got to practice for everything. So you're ready. Have you been practicing? Are you ready for retirement?
Yeah, we're gonna do little road trips. I'm not sure how. And we'll get an opportunity to do some bigger things, which we really haven't had a chance to do. So we're really looking forward to that. And
and people that know you. There are people who are history buffs, but you are really a history expert, because just as you approach the finances and you think things through, I know you know a lot about history. What's that area? I know you love Abraham Lincoln and you know a lot about that. Tell us a little bit about that interest.
Well, Abraham Lincoln is one of those people who I just take inspiration from, and sometimes when I'm feeling a little lost, I look to him for guidance, and I think about a number of things. Just such inspiring stories. One of which was his, just the way he thought about everything when he was going in to make a decision. He considered not just he'd get advice that would do this, and it kind of felt good, but he considered how would Kentucky react to that, it being a neutral state? How would Britain and France react to that? He was considering how everybody was thinking through a process. And so I always take inspiration at that. I take inspiration, basically he never let his ego get in the way of anything. It was always was always what's the best thing for everybody. He appointed for a Secretary of War a man who had snubbed him and basically, basically treated him like he was a dumb hick. But later on, he decided this is the best guy for the job. Regardless of that history, this is the guy I need. And so anyway, I just take inspiration from him all the time.
Well, your character, that shows through to how you do things. You do things for the good of the order, and you bring the truth, and you don't want any of the glory, because I think a lot of people, even if you've lived in town for a long time, you're a quiet guy behind the scenes, but you're helping make this what it is. So thank you for doing all that.
Oh, can I tell you? Well, you remind me of one more Lincoln thing. I'm sorry, you get me going. You put a quarter in me, and maybe you're regret. But one of his things was he tried not to put the word "I" in his speeches. He would, it was his speeches were never meant to be about him, and so anyway.
We'll have to go back and we'll have to review our own history and learn some more. Well, and I know I heard, a little bird told me, you're quite the Renaissance man. So usually, oftentimes, people who are numbers guys are only numbers guys, but you're a numbers guy, you're a history guy, and I heard you're also thinking about writing.
Well, I love the theater and I love history, and I think there are some untold stories in history that I think would make great plays. Now, having said that, I'm going to write these plays, and nothing's ever going to come of them. But it's still for my own edification. I'd love to try that.
You're going to be awfully busy as you retire. I don't know. You're going to be busier maybe now than, and I know you've put in a lot of hours and behind-the-scenes hours and after-hours work. But it sounds like you're set for retirement. You're ready.
Oh, I am. It's I feel like I've made some good accomplishments, and I feel like it's really a good time for a change. It's a good time for a kind of a new perspective, and so I think it's a good time for the village. It's a good time for me, and I think this works out well.
Well, and as you said, you and Nikki have worked together for many months, years, and she's ready to roll. So she's coming in right behind you.
Right. I think Nikki's she brings so much experience, and she's come from bigger places, and I think we've developed into a bigger place, and need kind of the more structured approach that she brings, and I think that's just something that's we're at the point in our evolution where that's going to be really helpful, and I think she's the right person to do that. I also think the finance department has a fantastic staff, and I think that's a real advantage, and we just have great employees. So I think I think it's going to be a great situation.
Well, it's so nice that you took the time here to be with us today. Tell us some of your stories. Thank you for all you've done for the village, and thank you for you and your team, because I know you always put it out it's the team effort. So thank you all for all you've done. Vernon Hills is what it is today largely because of you and your team working behind the scenes. So we thank you for that, and we wish you all the best. Have a great time, and I will come to your play. Get it written. We'll all come.
Well, and I do want to thank. As I said, Mayor Byrne, Mayor Williams, Mayor Ellis, the board, the trustees I've worked with, and Larry Lash and John Calmer, Mike Allison, and the department heads and the employees, and the volunteers on the police pension board who contributed to our really good decisions. In 1988, we added the summer celebration. We put it under the village umbrella, and I've worked with 4 treasurers since then, and I've really been fortunate that I've worked with some really great people who I understood the constraints of receiving, basically receiving government money, and I just incredible people, and so I feel really fortunate. Just a great group of people, and I really am thankful that I've had this opportunity to work with these people.
Well, Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done. Best wishes to you. We'll keep in touch. We'll come back and have another good neighbor to know. We'll catch up with you when you have that Broadway debut, so we'll be all ready. So,
If you're waiting for that, I think it's going to be a really long time. But
well, best wishes to you. Thank you, and best wishes.
thank you, Lynn. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Kim Christensen with the Vernon Hills Police Department, and we're here to give you some crime prevention tips and some safety things for the holiday season. Where did summer go? Where did 2015 go, for that matter? It seems like only yesterday we're planning the summer celebration and National Night Out and the mall, the law enforcement exhibition. It was right here in Westfield. If you missed it, it was a great time, and hope to see you next year when we do it again. Anyway, it is December now. It is the holiday season. It's in full swing. It's all cranked up and ready to go. The parking lots are full. So let's go over some safety things to keep you safe, to keep your money safe, to keep your family safe, to keep the children safe, all the way around. First, let's deal with the topic of parking. All right. Now, our cell phone warning for this month, the parking lots aren't roadways. So technically, the law may not apply. However, please don't use your cell phones driving through the parking lot. We've all seen pedestrians going in and out of stores, crossing through parking lots, crossing across the lanes in parking lots, talking or texting on their cell phone. Please be careful. Whether it's a street or not, we don't want anybody getting hurt. We don't want anybody getting hit. Right? Now, when you do park, when you go shopping, be sure to close the windows and lock up your vehicle. And do this if it's only going to be a minute. We've already, I'm only going in for a minute. It doesn't matter. It only takes a minute for a car burglar to strike. Hide small valuables in the car. Put them under the seat. Stick them in the console. Stick them on the glove box. Remember that even inexpensive items are a temptation to a thief. It could be a cheap pair of sunglasses or just some change in the console. I'll store larger items in the trunk. That's the safest thing to do. Shopping bags are a dead giveaway to a car burglar or a thief that there's something of value in the car. So take an extra minute, put it in the trunk, keep it out of view. Remember, what we're doing is avoiding the temptation, and we're avoiding the opportunity for someone to commit a crime. And finally, as far as personal safety, try to park in well-lit areas. If you're going to be coming out of the mall at dark, or if you're coming in at dark, park in well-lit areas. Park near other vehicles, park where you can be seen and where other people can see you in the event of an emergency. Well, as long as we're at Hawthorne Westfield Mall right now, let's talk about some safety tips and reminders that you should be thinking about and you should practice when you're at the mall shopping, or you're at the mall eating, or if you're any place shopping and eating. So, ladies, if you carry a purse, please keep it close to you. Keep it in front of you where you can see it. And try to cover the clasp or the flap with your hand or forearm. That just makes it easier to guard against a pickpocket or someone that wants to steal it. Never carry an open purse or an open bag. Those are certainly easy targets. Men, carry your wallet in an inside coat pocket or side pants pocket. And everybody, please don't overburden yourself. Walking around with a lot of packages or bags keeps it hard to keep track of your things, and it's hard to react if you're loaded down with items. As much as humanly possible, stay alert. Now, ladies, if you're in a restaurant, no matter where it is, if you're in a restaurant and you hang your purse over the back of a chair, please stay alert and keep an eye on it. A crowded restaurant is a perfect opportunity for someone to walk right behind you and either grab the purse or steal something out of it. So please watch it. Now, what about if you shop from home in the comfort of your family room or the comfort of your living room, and you do it on a computer, like billions and billions and billions of people do, myself included? Well, if you do, there's some things you can remember there also. First off, shop on secure sites. When you're checking out, look for the HTTPS in the address, not just HTTP. That S stands for secure. Use credit cards, not debit cards. That provides better protection in the event of fraud and less access to your personal accounts. For additional information about safe online shopping, a great website is actually one from the American Bar Association. It's www.safeshopping.org. Now, you can also visit the Federal Trade Commission at consumer.ftc.gov. That is a fabulous site for all things identity theft, shopping safety, all kinds of stuff. Check that site out. It's a great one just to surf around on. Now, just, if not more important than being safe when you're shopping and eating, is being safe in your home. So let's talk about some safety tips for your home as well. While you're out, leave lights on so that it looks like someone's home. We want to make the house look lived in. Timers are inexpensive, and everyone should have at least one, preferably two. Take that extra minute to make certain the doors and windows are closed and locked. While you're pulling away, take an extra look at that overhead garage door. Weather and cold can sometimes affect it. So double check it, be sure it's closed as you're pulling away. Are you going away? Going on vacation during the holidays? Well, if you are, ask a friend or relative to keep an eye on your home and make it look lived in. Make sure the snow's shoveled. The newspaper and the mail, if they're not stopped, ask your neighbor or friend or relative to bring them in. Rearrange the curtains from time to time. Move the car once in a while. Again, use those timers. Once again, the whole idea is making your home look lived in. Finally, call the police where you live. In Vernon Hills, we have a house watch program. We'll be glad to stop by periodically and check your house while you're away. Finally, if you are leaving, please don't broadcast it on social media. It's an exciting time. You like telling people you're going away and where you're going, but it's not a great idea to let people know that the house is going to be empty. And we talked about having your snow removed while you're on vacation or while you're out of town. And since we're on the topic of snow, no one wants to bring it up, but let's talk about it real quick as far as parking on the street in Vernon Hills. If you're watching this, you probably live in Vernon Hills. And like most communities, Vernon Hills has a village ordinance which prohibits parking on a village street for 12 hours after a 2-inch snowfall. While this may serve as a minor inconvenience to some, it's necessary so that the plows can do a thorough job of cleaning the streets without having to go back a second and third time. So we thank you for your cooperation. Well, as you can see behind me, Santa's not here yet. They're getting ready for him. Well, by the time you see this, Santa will be here. But I'll tell you, if he was here right now, he'd probably ask you to do one thing, and that would be to go on Facebook and like the Vernon Hills Police Department Facebook page. We have a lot of good, interesting information on there. It's a great way to stay in touch. It's a great way to stay informed. Okay? Now that, in addition to the Village Facebook page, is the perfect way to stay in touch with everything that's going on in Vernon Hills. So check that out. Well, on behalf of Chief Mark Fleischauer and everybody at the Vernon Hills Police Department, we want to wish you a happy and safe holiday season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in 2016.
Well, we are outside at the Village of Vernon Hills Village Hall. It's actually quite nice out here. We're talking with Dave Brown. He's our Public Works Director. We are in front of some displays because this year we're having kind of, I guess you'd call it an alternative light show. We don't have a light show this year. Can you remind people about that? Because I think there's still people calling Village Hall and wondering what's going on. Can you tell people the background on that?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it is nice that we're talking about displays and the holidays coming up in such nice weather in November. I guess in terms of the Winter Wonderland, it's been beautiful. It's been 21 years out at the Cuneo Loyola grounds. Because of development potential on the site, they have not renewed the lease, so therefore we have to find some alternatives. So we've been challenged with that, and instead of the beautiful grounds that were available to us, we decided, you know, what can we do around town? So we will be dispersing some of the illuminated displays similar to what's behind us and moving them throughout the village, and we'll continue to decorate our municipal buildings, etc., and still have that same theme that we've had at the light show, although it's impossible to replicate the Cuneo grounds, obviously.
And when we go back to the Cuneo grounds, I know people have said, every year that we kind of had the inkling it might, every year, is this the last one? Is this the last one? We knew Loyola was working to do some development of a portion of that property. So that's why we couldn't really give this is the last one, because we never really knew.
Yeah, and we also understand their pressures in terms of the mansion. It does need a lot of maintenance. It's many millions of dollars to keep an old building like that intact. So, that's really why they're having discussions about, potential developments, and it benefits us all.
Okay, so, and I know the trustees were excited to make sure we continue to use some of these displays. So like you said, you're going to be able to drive around and see them at some, municipal locations. Just look around and you'll be surprised where some of them are, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some good partners, whether it's agencies like the Fire District, Countryside Fire District, or the Park District. They're helping us, and there's some private businesses that have contacted us, and they're interested in sharing the same theme throughout the village.
So then instead of driving through Cuneo, we'll just take a drive around town and then shop in town and eat in town and all those things we like to do to put some revenue in the coffers.
The shopping around town is very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And as we talk about this, thank you to your public works guys for kind of envisioning how this could happen, because anytime you switch something up, it takes some thought about how to get power and how to get everything hooked up. So thank you to them. And I know that as we start getting ready for winter, at some point we anticipate there's going to be snow plowing to happen. And I know one of the things you like people to go out and do is check your mailboxes now while it's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Our salt bins are full. We're mounting equipment. We are prepared if we were to have a snowstorm that came through now. We're prepared for that. In terms of preparation, one thing that I didn't really realize until the last few years is in terms of mailboxes, one of the main damages that happens to mailboxes is really the door. The door is on a hinge and it swings out into the roadway, and as we drive by, we're not actually hitting the mailbox. We're actually hitting the door that's open. So just as far as preparing for winter, I went out and I looked at my mailbox, and the hinge it's an old mailbox that needed repair, and so I replaced my mailbox. And just something to take a look at, because everyone needs their mail, and we don't mean to damage mailboxes. It's something that occurs, and we try to minimize that.
Yeah, I know our pole was a little wobbly too. I had to take care of that and shim it up a little. So.
Yeah, just one of those things on the list for things to button up before winter finally gets here, and we have the nice weather to do that, and so I certainly took advantage of it.
Well, thank you, and thank you to you and your crew for all you're doing to help us get ready for the holidays. We appreciate all that, and happy holidays to you and your crew.
You too, absolutely. It's going to be a good year.
Well, we are coming to you from Countryside Fire Protection District over on Deer Path Drive. I'm here with Fireman Tony Rodkey, a friend of children and students and people everywhere. We actually are taping for this December show during this heat snap in November, so it's hard to come out here and talk about winter and the holidays and all that stuff, but Tony, we know it's gonna turn cold on us, so that's what we're here to talk about. And one of the things you wanted to remind people was keep the wreath red, which starts at Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, keep the wreath red's about making sure that no fires are started from holiday decorations.
Mm-hmm. So explain a little bit of the history of that. That's not just for us, right?
And it's been around for years that you want to make sure you're checking your holiday lights for missing bulbs, cracked bulbs, frayed wires, not running extension cords that can cause fires during the holidays.
And if you do get a fire that's caused by decorations, that's when we're going to see the big wreath up on the fire station. You change out a bulb then, which you don't want to do.
Correct. Right now we'll have all red bulbs. If there was a fire caused by holiday decorations, we would replace a red bulb with a white bulb. So that's the purpose of keeping the wreath red.
Okay. And when we talk about when we're putting our decorations up for the holidays, you talked about extension cords, not overloading them. I know sometimes the wires on these things, they just get kind of old and brittle, and that's where you get worried. You don't want rugs over that stuff so you can't see what's going on. You want everybody to throw junk out that needs to be thrown out and get new.
Exactly. We're asking you to check, make sure there's no frays. It's UL listed, Underwriter Laboratory listed. Running them under carpets, as you mentioned, causes heat resistance, and not, as we say, piggybacking extension cords, because, again, that can cause chance of overheating and fires.
When we talk about trees that go up, I know a lot of the artificial ones actually have more flame protection, but if you've got a real tree, you want to keep it watered and keep it away from heat sources.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that you're watering your fresh cut tree probably in the morning and the evenings regularly, and keeping it away from any of the vents from your furnace, any of the fireplaces, space heaters. We should keep anything from space heaters and fireplaces a minimum of 3 feet.
Okay, let's talk about that some more, because I know a lot of us do use space heaters when it does finally get cold. I mean, it's hard to imagine when we're standing here today. And even though they say they're cool to the touch and everything's good, you still want everybody to keep a clear zone.
Yes, this is telling the children when you come in from playing in the snow, we don't want to put those wet mittens and boots too close to the fireplace or the space heaters, at least 3 feet back. They'll dry out, be ready for the next day.
Well, and you like to keep things away from, I know that one of the things that gets you the most nervous as a fireman is candles. I mean, whether you're using them just, to have a romantic ambiance in your house, or you're using them at your dinner table or whatever, that's something that really, they are more dangerous than you think. You guys want everybody to watch out for that.
We want to make sure that there's a good, sturdy, non-combustible base, a glass base, a metal base. We want to make sure, again, there's nothing combustible, paper towels, paper napkins, things like that could catch on fire should it fall over. And then when you go out, blow it out. We don't want to leave candles burning unattended. If we go to a different part of the house, we go to sleep or we leave the house.
So you're saying blow it out. So even if I've got them in the kitchen, but I'm going to go in and watch TV for a while, and the dining room table still looks nice. You're like, even if you're just in the other room.
There's no use in letting it burn. It's a chance for fire to occur.
Okay. And I know you like those faux candles. That's your kind of thing.
Yeah, the flameless candles is referred to battery operated. Give that look of a flickering candle burning. Yeah, much safer.
Much safer. Very good. When we talk about, let's go back to that, the heating element and keep things away, keep that clear zone. I know you guys always, you recommend that people also have their furnaces and their chimneys checked, especially as our homes get aging a little more. Some of those fireplace chimneys have maybe deteriorated a little.
It's a great idea to maintain your furnace with a technician brought in annually before the winter here. This would be the time to make sure they'll be busy, to run through it, change out filters, and make sure it's in good working order. In addition to making sure if you're using your fireplace and having the chimney swept out annually.
And I know you guys have said that some of the older homes, particularly like in my neighborhood, that sometimes as that flue deteriorates, you've had some like fires that kind of go in there. So it's good to have, even if somebody can run a camera up through there.
Well, that's the whole purpose of cleaning it, is that buildup of soot over the years isn't cleaned out. It can cause a chimney fire.
So that's what you want us to do. One of the things we can do to stay safe. So we're checking our heat sources. We are checking our candles. We're checking our decorations. And as we still go in to December, and oftentimes what happens is the landfill closes and we can't get rid of our yard waste. But you have a particular concern about people burning and the rules of that.
And there's no open burning in Vernon Hills. Now you are permitted to use a fire pit or outdoor fireplace with firewood, not using leaves or brush that you want to get rid of. That is illegal. No open burning in Vernon Hills, just the firewood in the fire pits or outdoor fireplaces. No burning leaves. You have to go through waste management for that.
Okay, and I know it is a kind of a trick because there are some outlying communities that they still let you like burn your your leaves and things like that, but we are not one of them, and a lot of the communities right next to us are not either.
That is correct. There's many communities, there's no open burning.
Because you just don't like to see that stuff blow around and start a fire someplace.
And that's what's happening. People are taking the leaves. We've been on a few calls for this, putting them in their recreational fire pits, and the leaves are burning, and if it's a breezy day and they're blowing into the neighbor's house, and that's where we can have unintentional fires.
So it's not just a rule just to have a rule. There's a rule for the safety purpose there.
Of the whole community.
Excellent. Okay. So one of the things we're going to remember now is we're going to keep the wreath red. We're going to be careful during the holidays. We're going to keep clear zones around everything. There's a lot of information on the website for Countryside Fire. You can always call over. Fireman Tony goes on the road and teaches people all the time, so if you've got a group that you'd like to hear more about this, Fireman Tony can stop by. We have a couple things we want to tell people before we go, before we wish everybody a good holiday. Remind people what to do if they think they've got a problem.
When in doubt, call it out, 911.
Excellent. That's something to always remember. And of course, we wish you all the people who are taking care of us here at Countryside Fire, we wish you all the happiest of holidays. And thank you for all you do for us.
Oh, you're welcome. And on behalf of Countryside Fire District, have a happy holiday season.
Five, four, three, two, one. Yeah!
I was going to start off by recognizing and welcoming all the special people, the dignitaries, but I can't often say this. Everyone in this room is a special person and a dignitary, and someone who's had something to do with this project. So I was asked to make a couple comments this morning, but I've never been to a ribbon cutting ceremony before, so I don't really know what's appropriate. So all I'm going to do is say thank you to all the people that have really made this possible. The project began originally in 2006. A lot of us can think back that way. We first did our very first space needs analysis and identified the fact that we need to move the communication center somewhere else. This could not have happened, this entire project, and we would not be standing here today without a whole long list of people. First, Mike Allison, our former village manager, who supported the original study back in 2006 and encouraged us to move the communication center to its new location. All of the police department employees who participated in the numerous meetings with the Hesners to design, for the first design of this building and then the subsequent redesign of this building. Enough can't be said about our new village manager, John Kelmar. Without his support, once he took office, his support was strong and unwavering. He was probably our biggest single supporter in terms of getting this project off the ground and completed. Mike Atkinson, where's Mike? Can't say enough about Mike. Mike has been our liaison with all the building contractors and the businesses and with the Hesners and with the Village Hall. And Mike, his wisdom and all the skills that he's shown in working through the builders and seeing through the red tape, if you will, and getting the project done, working through the permit process. There's no way we could have done this without Mike. Mayor Byrne and the entire village board, who unanimously supported and approved the funding. Actually, they approved the funding for this building several times as we had a couple little increases for the construction of this building. Without your support, we wouldn't be standing here today, and we appreciate all the support that you've shown through the many years for the Vernon Hills Police Department. Scott and Kurt Hesner. Scott, your brother's not here?
He's here.
Your dad? Where's your dad? Oh, there he is. All the gray hair just sort of blended together. I'm sorry.
You got the same. You got it right here too.
Their design firm did an outstanding job designing the building, and Pat Green, who handled all the technical skills, the details, and Earl, the CAD guru, who kept going in and changing all the design plans as we were sitting in the room together. Special thanks also to Kevin Grampo, who led the employee committee and was responsible for, and in no small part, he was responsible for handling all the details of the move, organizing the move, and actually getting all the stuff out of this building in a timely manner. Very special thanks to Dave Brown and the Public Works guys, especially Gene Schroeder and his team, who literally moved 100% of all the furniture, books, files, papers, everything that was in this building over to the building that we were temporarily occupying and over to the storage building. And they did that in about 3 days in the middle of winter. So no small task, and we really appreciate their work. Jim Dunning, he had the unenviable task of moving all the phone lines, network cables, computer lines, everything from one building to the other, making sure they worked, and then having to move all those things back in very short order. And everything was accomplished really without a hiccup. So thanks to him. Special thanks to MTI, especially Bert and Ernie, for their input and advice. And I can't say enough about our experiences with MTI. And I'll include Mike in this too. Where'd Mike go? He was standing around. There he is in the back row. Mike, as I've told him before, was the wild card in this group. When we interviewed construction companies, there were 2 or 3 who appeared extremely competent. And while we leaned towards MTI, the one thing we weren't sure of was Mike, because he was a foreman who never had worked in this area. They brought him in from Rockford. Everyone else had foremen who had worked in the area and were familiar with working with, so we weren't sure how that was going to work out. We made the right decision. MTI and Mike have done an absolutely fantastic job of shepherding this process through. They cut through the red tape with all the contractors and subcontractors. Mike handled all the problems as they jumped up. Everything was taken care of, and I don't think there was anything other than a choice. Do you want brown or black? Or do you want light gray or dark gray? Those are about the only decisions he brought to us. And we really appreciate all the work he did in this. And then a special thanks to Rick Davies, who took over after Kevin was promoted to deputy chief in another organization. Rick Davies stepped in and became the project coordinator from the time the project began all the way through today to making the coffee this morning and making sure we had enough styrofoam cups and paper plates. So thank you to him for all the work he did. This building is fantastic, and as you walk through today, you'll notice on our monitors, one behind me, and another one in the lunchroom is a slideshow that'll just be playing in a loop. And it's all the photographs of the building prior to construction, during demolition, and then as it sits today. It's hard to look at a series of pictures like that and get a feel for how it was. I was just sitting here explaining to someone today, this used to be the lobby where you walked in. There were 2 45-degree angle windows over here. One was for records, one was for communications. And during the last couple of years, one of the unique features, architectural features we had was we had plastic garbage bags taped to the ceiling in a funnel, and they would, all 4 corners, and they would go down to a 30-gallon garbage can, where Dave Z had to come out and empty the garbage cans once a week after a rainstorm because it leaked. And we had issues like that throughout the building. So it was time to do something. And again, I thank John and the board for having the foresight and the determination to get this done and do it right. I'd say this building we didn't just make some renovations. This building was gutted. The only thing that stayed in place were the 3 exterior walls. Other than that, and you'll see it in the photos, from the roof all the way on down, every interior wall was taken out with a front end loader. And I was just amazed at how all the contractors worked together in this process. As one was taking out walls and shoveling it out the front in the dumpsters, guys were saw cutting the floors and putting in the new plumbing, and the electrical guys were running the new pipes all at the same time. It was absolutely incredible. But you'll see we have the locker room area. You gotta go take a look at their locker room. It looks like a country club in there, it really does. We have plenty of lockers now for all of our male officers and female officers. We have new dressing rooms across the way for our telecommunicators, which they've never had before. We finally fit in our locker room, and the lockers are big enough to accommodate all of our equipment, and the showers you can see will rival any of those of the best country clubs around.
Does that mean there was fluff in the place? No, it's just well executed.
I didn't have to talk about fluff today.
Efficient.
You know, when we saw the plans, it was difficult to tell what the final project was going to look like. We knew there were going to be showers, but we really had no idea of how it was going to be tiled or anything like that. When they were done, everyone was just amazed and astounded with the way it came out. We have a new armory, gun cleaning area, larger, more secure property and evidence storage areas, updated bathrooms throughout the building. The lunchroom is now large enough to accommodate our people. We have about 35 people that work in here on a regular basis, and the previous lunchroom accommodated 8. So it was very difficult to have lunch and have everyone sit together. The investigations area is much larger now and can accommodate all the people. Again, we had desks for 4, but we had 9 people working out of investigations. The watch commanders area has been enlarged now with spaces for the watch commanders and the sergeants, and the OICs have their own space now. New report writing area, which is immediately to your left here, and the new roll call room, which we're standing here today, which is going to provide quick access to the squad cars. And the last thing I wanted to say was thank you to all the officers and staff of the Vernon Hills Police Department for your patience and understanding and your assistance in this move. One thing that you have to remember, even though we knew we were getting a great building at the end, the one thing you have to remember is we had 85 people working out of one single room across the way and one bathroom for all 85 people. That presented some challenges, as you can probably imagine. We did have a porta potty out in the front lobby, but again, it was the middle of summer when we were doing this work, so no one really wanted to go in there. So again, I could, as most of you know me, if I've had a couple cups of coffee, I can go on for a while. So this would normally be the point where we turn it over to the mayor for his closing comments. Trustee Cook, you are usually the mayor pro tem. If there's anything you would like to add, and then I'll turn the ceremonial machete over to you.
Nothing I can really add other than that it was our pleasure to support this and to see the building turn out the way it has with the incredible utilization of space. I mean, in walking around, there isn't a wasted square foot here. And you know, when you're in a community like this, police department is as important. You know, police department and public works, that's it. If you've got 2 good departments for that, then the village runs. And that's what's most important. So it's been our pleasure and honor to support this police department. And that's why all the votes, I believe, were all unanimous, right?
All unanimous.
Yeah. Nobody ever said, even the cost overruns to the country club. But seriously, it's been great, and it's turned out absolutely fabulous. Having been through the building when it was gutted, it's amazing what it's turned out to be. So, great job, and everybody.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday season. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Anybody have a good Thanksgiving? Yeah! Did anybody eat cranberry sauce? Yeah! Did anybody eat turkey? Yeah! How about pumpkin pie? Yeah! How about whipped cream? Yeah! One for you. How many people had turnip? Hey, okay. All right. How about the Bears? And how about the Chicago Bears beating the Green Bay Packers? Yeah. Okay. Who knows why we're here? Any of you kids know? What are you going to say? Christmas tree lighting. Okay. And the menorah lighting. And then we also want to welcome any of the folks from town that celebrate Kwanzaa and Diwali. Anybody here celebrate either of those? No. Oh, okay, well, it's okay. It's cool. All right, well, with that said, I'm going to defer to the queens. We got Victoria Berta. We got Valerie Berta. And Emily Chirillo. Yay. Let's give the queens a big hand, huh? All right. And then where's Kellen at? I got to give some airtime to my grandson.
Can you wave?
Yeah, he's not waving. So what? Okay, yeah, good job, Kellen. All right. So with that said, girls, let's do the countdown. 10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
That wraps up this edition of the Vernon Hills Update. The Village of Vernon Hills wishes everyone a happy and safe holiday season. Thank you for tuning into the Vernon Hills Update.